This week on the offseason, a forward-thinking coach when it comes to analytics, Ben Johnson shares his philosophy on the one stat that translates most to wins. Plus, Lou goes one-on-one with the Bears head coach at owners' meetings. Is he thinking about drafting a running back, tight end, or something totally different? And one of the best Illinois wide receivers in recent history is hoping to hear his name called at the draft in just 3 weeks. That and more coming up. Hello, everyone. Welcome into the offseason. I'm Cassie Carlson. We have a packed show this week with a ton of great guests. Let's start with the Tribune's Dan Wiederer, who spent the week at NFL owners' meetings, where the Bears continue to be the talk of the league. I want to go to something that Ben Johnson was talking about this morning, because you had breakfast with Ben, essentially. For 30 minutes, you got to ask him all those questions. And the thing that came out of it was this talk about how he views analytics, and the most important one being EPA, or expected points added. And he specified that being in the passing game. First off, for people who are like, what in the world does that mean? You know, I was listening to the Pat McAfee show, and he's like, it's kind of like plus minus in basketball, how much you're helping your team. Is that how you understand it as well?
Well, and I talked to Ryan Poles this afternoon and said, look, like we all just became students of EPA as of 8:30 Florida time this morning. And it is something that's very important to Ben. We heard him, Cassie, introduce this at his introductory press conference in regards to quarterback play being the defining factor on what distinguishes winning teams from losing teams, and winning games from losing games. And so along with that, the most important metric to Ben is this EPA. And so the Bears are going to try to find a formula that gets them on the right side of this. Some of what goes into that is creating explosive plays through run after the catch. Ben was very direct in saying, look, like we have to be able to be an offense that, one, has balance, two, establishes a running game, but then uses that to unlock these explosive plays with run after the catch. You go watch some of the highlight reels of the Detroit Lions from 2023 and 2024, and you see a lot of that. And so Bears fans should get ready for that to be a component of the offense. What that requires is more under center action from Caleb Williams. It requires shorter routes at times. There's a lot that's going to go into building this playbook to unlock the EPA that the Bears are desiring.
And Ben Johnson admitted he's kind of a procrastinator, which honestly kind of surprised me. But he said he's going to formulate his message to the team sometime over this weekend. Going back to last year, where the message clearly did not resonate with the team with Matt Eberflus, what do you feel like are the important points Ben Johnson needs to hit on as he stands in front of his team now for the first time?
Well, first of all, I told our mutual friend Kevin Fishman that I look forward to reading the Athletics story on Ben Johnson being a procrastinator. It'll be a great deep dive on how the Bears missed on this coach because they didn't realize that he didn't do things until the last minute. All kidding aside, I think Ben is very, very adamant about setting very clear standards, very clear direction, and making sure that those are adhered to. We talked in January about this buzzword of accountability that players were asking for, that the front office said needed to be better going forward. And a lot of that really comes back to consequence for when things aren't done right, and making sure that you hit on those things, and you make sure that everybody in the building knows what the bar is. And if it's not cleared, you go back and you make sure you clear it. And so it's easy to say those things. It's easy to message those in front of a team. It's much harder to enforce them. And that's going to be the challenge for Ben Johnson and his coaching staff.
We hear about the intensity he brings. Dan Miller, the voice of the Detroit Lions, is saying he's seen him go after players in practice when they are not practicing up to his standard. And Caleb Williams went from Shane Waldron, who I'm not quite sure ever addressed anything with him, to Thomas Brown, who tried to get a little bit more out of him and was a little bit more, I want to say, confrontational in how he coached Caleb Williams. So how do you think that relationship is going to work together as they continue to get to know each other?
Yeah, it's a good question. In a side session I had this afternoon with Ryan Poles, I asked him, in the short term, what's the most important part of this process between Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson? And he said it's really all about establishing trust. Month of April, month of May, you've got to get on the same page. You've got to connect. You've got to see the game through each other's eyes. And most importantly, you have to have trust in one another. And once you establish that trust, and once Caleb believes that Ben has the answers to take his career to where it needs to go, he'll be bought in. And that trust and that buy-in create, sort of that momentum that is needed for a quarterback to get going, that obviously was lacking in 2024. And so it'll be interesting to see how they find their way down that path. It's going to be new for both of them to be working with one another and trying to figure out which buttons you can push and which ones you should stay away from.
You were on the show a month ago, and we asked you if it were the draft, who would you be taking? Who were your top 5 picks? You gave us 6. I'm only going to go through the top 3 because you went Mason Graham, then Will Campbell, and your third was Ashton Genty. And that was before all of the trades and free agency happened. So now that all has unfolded, do you still like your list, or are you wanting to make any amendments to it?
I'm stubborn, so I like
You're
my
sticking
list,
with
and I'm
it.
going to stick with it. I do think that the Genty discussion is interesting, and you and I talked from the outset that the conversation itself should be had. It's fun to have, and you can figure out what it looks like in terms of the depth at the position, the opportunity cost of taking a running back at number 10, and what that looks like. But I think when you give Ben Johnson the opportunity to look at offensive weapons and skill players and try to figure out which ones unlock his creativity and his imagination most, you have to consider those things. Mason Graham, another guy that I said, if he falls to number 10, if I'm Ryan Poles, I'm quick to pull that trigger. Even if he's at number 8, I might consider calling and offering up a pick to go up and get him, because I think that's a guy that plugs in to your defensive line on day one and becomes a long-term starter and an impact player for you. And so that list is pretty good. And we talked a month ago about how appealing this menu was going to be when the Bears go on the clock at number 10. I still feel that way. They're going to have a lot of good choices that can be seen as right when they make them. And then again, they've got 3 picks on Friday of draft weekend, and those 3 picks are really, really valuable in a draft that feels like it's got what the Bears need at the positions they need it at in that middle to the second and third round there on Friday. And so they've got to put together a collection of 4 guys in the top 75 that they feel really strongly about. And however that comes together will be really interesting to watch.
If you're Ryan Poles and you have the 10th overall pick, are you looking at trading down, or do you feel like there are so many good players at the top of that board that you want to take one at 10?
Well, I'll take calls. If someone wants to come up, whether that's for a Genty, whether it's for a quarterback that may slip to number 10, I'll entertain the calls. I just want to know that what I'm getting back to move out of that slot is going to allow me to create that momentum with the entire draft class. This draft class, we're going to look back on this 5 years from now and say this was huge for the Bears, one way or another, whether they hit on it or whether they totally whiff on it. This is a big moment in the franchise's history, and so they've got to come out of draft weekend with a draft class that does what the draft class of Brad Holmes have done in Detroit, which is turn a team that was in last place and floundering into a 2-time division champ. And so this is a big moment here, and this month with the staffs of Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles getting together and finalizing that draft board is huge toward creating the decision-making processes that will play out on the last weekend of April. And so they've got to get this right.
All right, Dan, appreciate you coming on the off-season. Safe travels back to Chicago, but enjoy the sun while you're still there.
Yeah, I may not come back, but thanks for having me.
Yeah. We also learned from Kevin Warren and George McCaskey there's a shift in tone when it comes to the stadium. They're now focused on both Arlington Heights and the lakefront, citing Arlington being ready for construction with a metro stop and somewhere George Halas identified as a good place for a stadium more than 50 years ago. On the football side, Ben Johnson gets his first chance to address his team in person next week. As they begin their first OTAs, Luke Canellis catches up with the head coach next on the offseason. Next week's a big week for Ben Johnson. He'll get the chance to address the team for the first time as they have their first OTAs. He admitted he's a bit of a procrastinator and would work on his first message this weekend, but it's the first opportunity he'll have to sit in a room with Caleb Williams and start building the offense around him. Luke Canellis caught up with Ben Johnson at owners' meetings to learn more about his transition into Halas Hall, his vision for his quarterback, and his draft philosophy.
A little about me. I'm a born and raised Chicago kid. Been a Bears season ticket holder since I was 4. My godfather left the tickets in his will for me, and he had them at Wrigley. So I know the impact that you are having on Bears fans, like my dad and my godfather. Has it hit you? I mean, I don't want to be dramatic, but what's it been like the last 2.5 months since you got the job?
Well, listen, I've just been solely focused on getting the coaching staff right, on free agency, on the draft. Each day is its own task and it has its own challenges and problems right now. And that's what we're looking to attack from the top down with George, with Kevin, with Ryan. I feel strongly about working with them. I've got to know them really well over the last 2.5 months now. And it's all about winning games here this fall. So I love the excitement that we have going on outside of the building, but everything we're doing inside the building is to set us up to have a great season this year.
Have you heard from a fan, maybe a fan that may have sent a letter? Or I know you were at the Hawks game. Maybe someone came up to you and said something that really had an impact?
I haven't been outside of the building a whole lot, but the Blackhawks game was pretty special. You know, doing the horn with my family, and then I had a number of people stop by and say hello after that, and that meant something.
Yeah, it looked like her daughter had a good time with it
Yeah.
too. I think we got a Blackhawks fan for life.
She told me after I let her know that we were going to Chicago. She's like, "Daddy, I don't think they have cheerleaders there." I was like, "That's right, hon. You're gonna be the main cheerleader." And so she's all about it.
She's done a great job,
Yeah.
that's for sure. I had a chance, Stan Miller and I, voice of the Lions,
Yep.
do a show on the Fox Network every Tuesday, and he and I had a chance to chat yesterday. And I said, Dan, you knew Ben, he was there for 6 seasons. Tell me why Bears fans are going to love this guy. And he said, because he's intense. And I said, it's a match made in heaven, because Bears fans are intense. You feel that way?
Yeah, I do. Listen, I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do, and I love who I do it with as well. So, like I said, we got this coaching staff. It's wired exactly like we wanted it to do. Feel strongly about the players we brought into the building as well, and I do think, you can win and lose games based on how hard you're playing. You can play harder than your opponent in this league and win ball games, even though the parity is such that everything's close. And so that's where the intensity, the attitude with which we play, the speed with which we play, it's all really important, down in and down out.
Yeah, you told these guys, listen, you're going to work hard. I assume you've talked to most of the players by now. Has there been an overriding theme that they've given you back when you've looked for input from them?
Yeah, I've got a good sense of the guys I have had a chance to sit down and meet with, just where things might not have been quite as good as it could have been over the last few years. And so those are areas we're looking to improve. And listen, each year's different, each team's different, each coaching staff's different. So we're going to have plenty of challenges and issues that arise over the course of the spring, training camp, and the season that we'll look to work through. But that's also what makes it fun. And I think we're going to have a great version of this team where they're receptive to coaching and they want to get coached hard. They want to win games.
Obviously, the relationship with Caleb is so important for you and for this franchise. You've seen him on tape. He came to your introductory press conference. You've talked to him. Why is this relationship with you and he going to work?
Well, I think it starts with trust, first and foremost. I've been able to admire him from afar now for over a year. Plenty of crossover tape, and then I've been able to study his tape since I got into the building, and he's told me the same thing. He loved what we did on offense over the last few years in Detroit, and so there's a mutual respect, and to me that's the foundation piece here for how we can best serve each other. It's a partnership. I think he understands that. I'm gonna push the envelope on who he can become as a player. And he's going to make me a better coach as well. It's not going to be linear growth. We're hoping that we're starting here and we're going to end here at the end of the season, but it's not going to be a straight line to get there. We're going to go up, and we might go down and up and down and up and down, but the end game is to get year 2 of Caleb being significantly better than year 1 of Caleb.
Is there anything you can take from your experience with Jared that you can use with your relationship with Caleb to make him a better quarterback?
Yeah, certainly. Listen, I'm all about empowering the players out on the field. And it doesn't matter what position you're playing. And I felt like Jared and I had that type of relationship, and hopefully I can foster the same type of relationship with Caleb, where he needs to be able to talk to me and tell me what he likes, what he doesn't like, and he also needs to be receptive to trying some things he maybe hasn't done in his experience before. And so there's a healthy balance there, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes.
All right, let me talk about the draft quickly. I know you guys have the 10th pick today. Is it easier after the moves that you guys made? Is it easier to prepare for that 10th pick knowing that you can get the best player available instead of drafting for need?
Yeah, listen, I think we have a lot of flexibility when it comes to that pick. I said it to somebody earlier today. Ryan, Ian, Jeff King, myself, Dennis Allen, Declan Doyle, we spent some time over the last couple of weeks, just us in a room, watching some of the top draft picks potentially, and how we liked them, how we viewed them. And so we feel like there's going to be a lot of good players available with that number 10 pick. And honestly, right now, I couldn't tell you if it's going to be offense, if it's going to be defense. There's a lot of candidates in mind right now that could help us. The moves we made in free agency, I feel like, really helped us be flexible to where we don't have to pick necessarily a certain position at that spot.
But someone told me to expect the unexpected from Ben Johnson and that he may go out and get a running back or tight end.
Is 10 too early for a kicker? Is that too? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, we could do some fun things there with number 10.
Crazy for me to think that of those first 4 picks out of the first 72 in the entire draft, you can find 3 starters?
That's the hope. Yeah, that's the hope. Listen, there's going to be competition, so I can't say as we pick a player that he's necessarily going to win a job. He's got to go earn that job. But yeah, you would like to think that whether it's this year or years from now, that these players that we're picking in day 1 and day 2 will be starters for us.
All the moves so far. How excited are you about all of them?
Oh, yeah. Listen.
You guys have really set yourselves up.
Yeah, the game's won and lost in the trenches, and Ryan acknowledges that, I acknowledge that, and I think the moves that we've made as an organization acknowledge that as well.
All right, final question for you. Have you run into Matt LaFleur, and did he give you a hard time?
I did run into him. We had a cordial handshake, and game's on.
Game on, right?
Yeah,
all right, I love it.
Thanks, Lou. Pat Bryant was a jack-of-all-trades receiver for the Illini for 4 seasons. Now he's hoping to hear his name called in the NFL draft. We catch up with the Illini receiver next on the Offseason. Exciting guest on the show this week, 4-year player for the Fighting Illini, first-year All-Big Ten. He tied for the most touchdowns in the Big Ten regular season last year, 2nd in receiving yards, and now he is training for the NFL draft, which is just 3 weeks away. Pat Bryant, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you.
Thank you guys for having me.
This is such an exciting time for you and something that I'm sure you've really always dreamed about along with your family as you prepare for the draft. You get the invite to the Senior Bowl, you go to the NFL Combine, had your pro days, and now you're talking with all these teams. How would you describe the draft process and what it's been like for you?
Honestly, say it's kind of surreal, like a kind of a dream come true. Just growing up, playing youth sports and just having that mindset of one day, I might have a shot to make it to, the big leagues, the NFL. So just having that shot, man, really what sparked it all was getting that Senior Bowl invite. Just knowing that I had a chance to compete against some of the best guys, in the country, a lot of known names, and just going out there and showcasing my talents and showing that I'm capable of playing at the next level. So overall, great experience, man. Just soaking it all in at the end of the day.
You talk about growing up and this being a dream come true. What's your first memory of envisioning yourself maybe as a little kid playing football in the NFL one day?
I say so. Growing up, I'm originally from Jacksonville, so growing up, I always wanted to, play for the hometown team, man, and just, I'm saying, that'll always be a dream come true. But not even that, man, just having a chance to put on, an NFL jersey at that is a great experience. My whole mentality was, all I need to do is get in the door, whether that was drafted or undrafted. I just needed the shot, and I know with that shot, I would take full advantage of it.
I want to talk about Illinois a little bit and Brett Bielema. You were with him for all 4 years. That's not common anymore. Most people are transferring, but you elected to stay. And first off, let's talk about why. Why you felt like Illinois was a place for you for all 4 seasons, and then what makes Brett Bielema such a good coach?
So I was actually recruited by Lovie Smith coming out of high school. So coming out of high school, I had about 33 offers, an offer from every school in Florida. So it was more of a COVID, so things were kind of, speckling fast. A lot of people were committing. So my main focus was to get somewhere I knew that I could play early, just to get used to the speed of the game, and then just, getting away from home and trying something new. So Lovie recruited me, and then it's 2 days before signing day, Lovie got fired. And then they gave me a call. Him and Coach Stoker were telling me that they still felt like it was a great fit for me to go out there and showcase my talents in a big league like the Big Ten and help turn the program around. So I kind of stayed with it. Coach B gave me the call, told me my offer was still on the table. So, hey, I went ahead and ran with it.
And you gave him plenty of highlight moments. Do you have a favorite from your Illinois career?
I got a couple. Really, just this past senior, my senior year was pretty full of big moments.
We saw them.
All the game-winning touchdowns, I say probably like one of the special moments. But really, the Purdue game, man, just going in and getting that cannon back. I know we hadn't had it. We had it my freshman year, ended up losing it, but just getting that back in the facility, man, it felt great. And Coach B does a great job, man, just pushing the standard. And honestly, over the past 4 years, he's done a great job turning the program around.
All right, question for you, because I get this question as an Illinois alum. They're always like, who do you think your biggest rival is? So I'm going to throw that question at you. Who do you feel like Illinois' biggest rival is in football? Because it's not the same as basketball, I don't think.
I'll probably say, I mean, Northwestern a good one, but I don't really like it because it's so towards like the end of the season. I'd probably say like it's either Purdue or Iowa. People don't see Iowa as like a rivalry, but we kind of do, just knowing that we play two of kind of the similar styles of football.
Yeah.
But Purdue for sure.
Yeah.
Purdue for sure.
I think I would agree with that. Here's a fun fact. Casey Washington drafted in the 6th round last year. Before that, A.J. Jenkins was the highest drafted receiver, and that was back in 2012 to the 49ers. You could become the highest drafted Illini wide receiver since then. Does that kind of resonate with you at all?
I mean, that's crazy because I hadn't heard that until last week. I went out to the practice, and Coach B had actually told me that. So, I mean, really, it kind of puts a stamp on the season. You know, at the end of the day, I set records, I broke records, and at the end of the day, I helped, turn the program around and let it head in a great direction. So just, being recognized one more time, just going to, the NFL at a high picking would be special.
All right, I want to pull up a tweet that I saw about you. You were invited to a middle school basketball game and showed up for these fans. I got to know the story behind this because I love seeing these things, that you're really integrated into the community in Champaign.
So basically, I had like a public signing. So like the last time I would be in Champaign, so fans could come see, do like a meet and greet, sign a couple autographs. So this whole group of kids came in and they were just screaming and hollering like, "Oh Pat, oh Pat!" So we didn't make them pay for anything. We basically like gave them a lot of free stuff. Signed a lot. I was like, "So what you guys doing after this?" It was like, "Oh, we have a basketball game." I was like, "Oh, where? At the Art?" And it was like, "Yeah, at the Art." I was like, "All right, bet. I'm gonna come check y'all out."
Aww.
So I basically walked in, and it's crazy because they were actually playing the game, and like one of the kids on the bench saw me, and like as they were playing the game, like all the kids turned around, started waving while the other team was shooting free throws. So basically, like I kind of gave them a burst because once I got there, everybody was shooting threes, doing a little Steph Curry gesture. So it was real special. And then one of the parents came up and was like, "Do you mind staying after the game and like taking a picture with the boys?" I was like, "Oh yeah, of course." So stayed after the game, took a picture with them. I think they ended up going on to win the tournament, actually. So I guess I was sort of a good luck charm.
That's a great story. You're going to have to send them some signed swag or something after you get drafted. Has that always resonated with you, that you make an impact in the community and there are kids that have looked up to you for the last 4 years down in Champaign?
Oh, yes. Not only Champaign, but also like my community. That's kind of why I do what I do, man. Just coming from a community like Jacksonville, Florida, there's not really much there. Not too many people make it out just due to, the gun violence in the area that we're in. So I do what I do just to show the kids that there's more to life than just, what you see on social media or in the streets. Like, whether I do it with football, but my main focus is just showing the kids that hard work pays off. No matter you want to be a football player, a doctor, dentist, whatever it is, if you put the work in, you can achieve it. So really just being that role model, because that's what I had growing up. My father was like that role model and that mentor for all, my friends that didn't have father figures. So my main focus is to just show the world, not only the community, but the whole world, that hard work is the key to anything.
What cornerback are you most excited to go up against in the pros?
Lil Spoon.
Run it back.
Be a Lil Spoon.
Do you talk to him
Run
often?
it back one more time. Oh yeah, he always check up on me, tap in on making sure I'm straight. It's crazy because he told me like the 5th game, he was like, "You got it, bro. Just keep your head down, keep working. It's gonna happen." So, I mean, he always had faith in me. That was actually my roommate his senior year before he left. So, we shared some great things. I learned from him. He learned from me. So I'm excited to see him at the next level.
All right. Well, Pat Bryant, we are rooting for you. Congratulations on everything leading up to the NFL draft, and we can't wait to hear your name called in less than a month. Crazy how time flies.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So the Bears have won the offseason so far. Now it's time for the players to hit the grass and the Ben Johnson era to really begin on the practice field as they have OTAs next week at Hallis Hall. We'll keep you up to date with the latest. In the meantime, you can catch extended interviews with Dan Wiederer and Pat Bryant on the Fox 32 YouTube channel, along with all previous episodes of the offseason. We'll see you next week.